Hey, this is the Fight Nerd, and joining me now is a living legend whose voice and face I've seen and heard for over 20 years of my life, and maybe you've heard him for just as long or longer, and today I get the chance to speak with him. World-renowned commentator for WCW, WWF, and as of March 4th, the new voice of New Japan Pro Wrestling on AXS TV, good old JR, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you today?
I'm good, Matthew. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for being here. Now, I am a regular listener of your podcast on Podcast One, and there's been plenty of times in the past that you mentioned doing commentary for New Japan, even just saying, maybe you just wanted to do a Wrestle Kingdom show again. Did you ever expect to be doing full commentary again for a pro wrestling company on a regular basis, let alone New Japan? Because I thought you were essentially retired from doing commentary.
Well, I tell you, Matthew, pardon me, it had to be the right thing. It had to be the right product. I had several opportunities to re-engage my former full-time career as a pro wrestling broadcaster. I was reluctant to engage in weekly travel again, or more frequent travel. Secondly, I'm a little bit of a in-ring nerd. I wanted to make sure that the product that fit what I perceived my skill set the best. So when the New Japan opportunity came along, which was somewhat unexpected for me anyway, it was a good fit. It fit us travel-wise. It fit what I like about the product. So it was an opportunity that I just didn't want to pass up, and I'm really, really happy that we got our deal done, and we've already got 6 shows in the can, and excited about this Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central to kick this thing off.
There's the money, as Dusty Rhodes would say. Now, alongside you also is MMA veteran and a former guest of our show on many occasions, Josh Barnett, one of our favorite guests. And I gotta say, I've watched the screener. I really enjoy how easily you guys can just talk to each other, and as well as just how well you balance off each other in terms of the commentary. And I was actually very concerned about how you two would work in particular, just from your different backgrounds, but it's really great how perfect it actually is. What's it been like working with Josh, and what does he bring to the table for you as a commentator?
Well, first of all, Josh and I have been friends for many years, and just had never worked together before. So this is a very timely opportunity. Another thing that led to my accepting AXS offer was the fact that I got a chance to work with Josh, and I have been a fan of his and Mauro Ranello's work on Friday nights on AXS for a long time, so I was very familiar with it. So that helped sell me that this is a good time and a great opportunity to get back in the game. But Josh brings a tremendous knowledge of the Japanese culture, little things like helping me through the correct enunciations of the athletes' names. Sounds like a small deal, but it's not. He's got great product knowledge after calling the New Japan product for a long, long time, So he's just really a cerebral guy. He's got a very learned, the Billy Robinson influence, Carl Gotcha influence, all those things were great for me to experience and to interact with him. And, I never had any illusions that we were going to not have a good chemistry. I've worked with a lot of guys over the years, and I tried to be a good partner to all of them and find out what they do best and what they prefer not to do, and stay away from that and migrate toward what they do better. So this is a real easy transition for me, and I thought, if you'd like the first show, which I'm happy that you saw it, I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's being well received by those that are looking at the screeners. I'd like to think that our second day that we were there doing voiceovers really hit our stride. So if we started off solidly for you on day 1, I think you'll really enjoy shows 4, 5, and 6.
I'm really looking forward to seeing those all as well. Now, just a quick question about Josh. I don't know, but did you happen to see his press workout at UFC on Fox 18, where he basically put on a pro wrestling match? Did you have a chance to see that yet?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It entertained me to no end. And, he's got a great wit. He's got good comedic timing. He's very observant of his surroundings. And he created something that resonated with the media. And I thought I had a great time watching. I got a kick out. I think I watched a couple times. It was just very, very entertaining. And I think it seemed like, just from what I could tell, that the media that were there also got a kick out of it.
I would say so. I wish I was there for that one. Now, important question here is how did you really educate yourself on the history of New Japan, since it's a long, long history, and I know you're essentially a walking textbook of a lot of old school wrestling. So what did you do to get yourself ready for this show?
Well, New Japan's not a new entity for me. New Japan was created in 1972. I got in the wrestling business in 1974. A lot of Bill Watts talents and guys would come into the Mid-South, subsequently the UWF wrestling territory, were regulars on that New Japan circuit back in the day. And so, I had a good feel for it then. And, I went to 91. I went with the WCW guys over to Tokyo Dome, and Tony Schiavone and I did a bunch of production there, and then subsequently voiced that show over where Tatsumi Fujinami beat Ric Flair for the NWA title. I've had a great familiarity with New Japan since right after they opened their doors. So it wasn't something that was a big culture shock for me. And then having the opportunity last year, toward the end of 2014, I should say, and then Wrestle Kingdom 9 and January 4th, 2015, I did a great deal of prep and research, watched a lot of YouTube videos, studied. So I'd be prepared for the Wrestle Kingdom 9 show. So I didn't start from scratch on prep, Matthew. At least I had a feel for it. And then when I got the New Japan opportunity to broadcast, as I said, it starts this Friday night, that I increased my prep time and my study. So I felt pretty good about it. Plus, I enlisted a lot of friends in the business that are absolutely, they're just diehard New Japan Pro Wrestling fans that helped me with notes. And I've already started that process again. We don't do voiceovers again until around the St. Patrick's Day week. So, but I've already started preparing for the next shows, because AXS is so good about providing me with what I'm going to do that I can get ahead of the curve, and that way I'm not cramming for a test the night before the test, so to speak. I'll be well caught up, and so I'm really I enjoy that aspect of broadcasting. I enjoy doing preparation work and preparing for the show. I always have prepared more material than I ever used, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
Well, I'd say your commentary definitely shows that you've been a fan for a long time. It just seems like a very natural fit. Now, on that debut episode that's going to be on Friday, March 4th, we're going to be seeing Nakamura defending his Intercontinental title against Goto, as well as a tag match between AJ Styles and Yujiro Takahashi against Okada and Yoshihashi. Can you just give us a quick preview of what other matches we're going to be able to look forward to hearing you call on AXS TV?
Oh, man. Gosh, let me think. The Super Junior final was a highlight because it was Kushida versus Kyle O'Reilly. And I think there are some fans, not all, but there's a vocal minority of fans in North America that I don't think, in my opinion, give the junior heavyweights, the smaller guys, the credit that they rightfully have earned and deserve. So O'Reilly and Kushida have a phenomenal textbook type match. The match is the whole hour, and it was really compelling to call and to watch, because it wasn't a high spot fest. It wasn't like watching the Flying Melindas go through their routine of somersaults and flips and all that stuff. They actually wrestled, and they were very, very stern and firm about their application of holds. So that match certainly stands out. But they're just, the great thing about this product, the New Japan product, is it's consistent. There's not, you rarely, I don't think we called a stinker, quite frankly. And I'm not saying that humans can't have bad matches, because they can, even in New Japan. But we weren't privy to them, so to speak. So, but the Super Junior final really stands out as a match that was really old school in its origin and its structure, and a very compelling viewing opportunity, I think. And I think our story that Josh and I told will fit it well. So that match really stands out as one that was one that I didn't expect to be as good as it was, for no reason other than maybe I had the same twinges of the same bias about the size thing. But I got into business in '74 in a junior heavyweight territory until Bill Watts bought in, and then he converted back over to bigger guys by and largely because of him. It was. I'm not forward to those smaller weight guys. My favorite wrestler of all time is junior heavyweight. So I think that I think that O'Reilly and Kushida match is really, really stellar, and people should. That'll be, I think, in week 3 or 4. I'm not sure.
Well, I've always been a fan of the junior heavyweights. In fact, that's actually when I first started watching Japanese wrestling. What got me so interested is the guys like Ultimo Dragon, Benoit, Great Sasuke, Jericho was there when I was watching. Now, on the topic, do you have a favorite wrestler yet in New Japan Pro Wrestling that you like to watch the most?
Well, no, not really a favorite. I mean, there's a lot of guys I really respect and enjoy. You know, I hope that Tanahashi, the matches we have with Tanahashi were before he got his shoulder injured, so he'll be at his best in that. But I hope that he gets healthy because he's really he's kind of like New Japan's John Cena in the sense that he's kind of pulled the brand together and lifted it up when it needed it. And but I like his work a great deal. Solid, fundamentally sound. Can be physical, it also can fly. But I guess right now the athlete that probably has garnered the most attention for me is Okada. I think he has a great look. How in the world he came to TNA and they didn't use him is one of the great head scratchers that I've come across. But he's got a great look. He's got a real good aptitude. Handsome kid. I think he's going to be their guy. He can stay healthy for the foreseeable future. But the good thing about it is they have several. Even though in time we'll see the disappearance of Nakamura because of WWE and AJ Styles, Gallows, Anderson. I just don't think that there's going to be a great big drop off because there's a lot of good talent in New Japan, and as the old expression goes, you learn one of your first weeks in the wrestling business, when one door closes for an athlete because of injury or leaving, defection, whatever, it just opens the door for somebody else. So there's some key spots on top where great money awaits for a couple of guys, at least, that fill the spots of AJ and Nakamura. So they're in good shape, I think, and I'm excited about their future because their dojo is so thorough. They kick out some good kids, and they waiting on Scott Hall's son Cody to get more involved, and Finley's son David is going to be a player. So I'm looking forward to the future of these guys like a great deal. I think it's just going to be a great fit for me. They are athletic. They work snug. They call it the strong style. Strong style was the way of life in pro wrestling in the North America in the 70s and the 80s, by and large. It wasn't invented by New Japan. They just perfected it, and they're really one of the last major organizations that enlist the strong style of physicality, which I wholeheartedly tip my hat to.
Yeah, that's in fact one of the things I thought to myself when I first heard you were doing it was that this is going to be great, because this is what Jim Ross was essentially doing before he came to the WWF, WWE. He was doing this kind of strong style wrestling, and it's great to hear you do it. Now, on the topics you already mentioned, Nakamura and AJ Styles, we just have had this small exodus from New Japan where those guys and Gallows and Anderson have both left. They're coming to WWE. So my question for you is, how would you ideally book these guys? Would you book them as a group again? Would you have them do something separate? What do you think they can do in WWE, and what do you think that WWE should do with these gentlemen?
Oh, two tough questions. I'm not so sure. I wouldn't. I'd keep probably Gallows and Anderson together as a team to get them involved in the tag team chase. I would leave AJ and Nakamura as singles. Let them build their own fan base, which I think would be quite easy to do. I think the key thing there is that WWE has to be careful of is just don't try to change any of these people that much. They're all good, and they all are solid. I mean, I've seen them work, and I've seen a lot of matches in my time. Not that I'm an expert, but certainly I got a good feel, I think, for what I like. And I think that Nakamura is probably, as far as pure, raw charisma, he's in that same level of Brock Lesnar as having it, in the standpoint that he's a guy that you can't see enough. You want to see more of him do things, his physicality. And the other thing about Nakamura is that he can speak fairly good English, and I don't think that's going to be an issue. I just hope that WWE doesn't stereotype him, i.e., he's not the Great Muta. He's not going to paint his face. He's not going to spit green mist. He's not going to throw salt. I think if they let him be himself, that what he's created, that image that he's created, they have a huge star and a hit on their hands. Same thing for AJ. AJ can't be pigeonholed as well, he's a good hand, but he's just awfully small. I think fans have already forgotten AJ's height and his weight because he is extraordinary in the ring. So I guess the bottom line is that if WWE just doesn't try to change these guys wholeheartedly, we can always improve. I'd like to think I have yet to call my best match in pro wrestling, but therefore I work every show to get better than the last show. And the day that I stop trying to get better is when I need to quit, because that's when we find our comfort zone, and comfort zones are the kids of death, in my view. That there's virtually any business, or even in relationships, start taking things for granted, things start eroding. So, but I would think the bottom line for WWE is just don't try to overhaul these guys too much. Let them determine their strengths and book to those strengths. That's always been the key with a great booker. The bookers that I've worked with over the years, they had the innate ability to identify a talent's strengths and then play upon that, while at the same time having the opportunity to identify their weaknesses and then staying away from that creatively.
I agree 110%. Mr. Jim Ross is never wrong. No.
My wife might disagree with you on that one.
No, I'm staying out of that one. I've got a few MMA questions for you as well, especially because I know that you've launched the FITE app recently with Flips. And I'd like to get our listeners to learn a little bit more about the FITE app, and what it is that you're doing with them, and what the plans are for that app. And in addition to that, a lot of my listeners, I'm sure, would be interested in knowing how to work with you. I've got, I'm sure, a lot of listeners who run small MMA promotions. They might want to get their content on your show. So I guess I'd like to learn a little bit more about what the FITE app is and how fans and listeners can get in touch with your people to, I guess, work on creating more content for your app.
Well, I think Matthew, that there's a place on there to contact us on the site, FITE TV app. Should be a contact place there. Mike Weber, W-E-B-E-R, is the Senior VP of Marketing. Mike has worked at WWE, he's worked at WCW, and he's worked in Ring of Honor, so he's got a real good background as far as sports entertainment is concerned, and has helped share in the vision for the FITE TV app. Our goal is to provide small MMA organizations and pro wrestling organizations and boxing promoters with a platform to get their product distributed and shared with other fans. So that's really a kind of our goal. And I'll give you an example. This week on the FITE Network, as we talk, we have the LA Fight Club, the Golden Boys product is going to be on. It's free. That's going to be on a Friday night from Los Angeles. So there's some free boxing, and it's on at 8:30 Eastern. That's a freebie. Friday night also, we are featuring a TNA one night only Chokers Wild pay-per-view. That's on Friday night. Saturday night we got a USFSC 26 Edge Revolt U.S. Freedom Fighters MMA from Greenville, South Carolina. So we've got a really unique variety of events that we have pretty much every weekend, and a lot of the content is pay-per-view, but there's also a great deal of content on the FITE TV app that's free. So we are reaching out to wrestling promotions around the world, MMA promotions, that we could be your home for distributing your product. And last week we had MMA on the app. We had arm wrestling. We had the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. So it's really a melting pot for all kinds of combat sports. And I used the app a long time before I invested in it. So, and I'd like to be very transparent on that. I don't want people to think, well, JR's he's got an awful strong interest in this show. I sure do, or this app, because I have invested in it. But I believed in it before I bought in, and I really think it's a great app. I like to watch off-Broadway MMA. I like to watch off-Broadway wrestling, like Evolve and Shimmer, some organizations like that. And boxing, you never know when you're going to see the next big thing. And the prices of these pay-per-views range from, moderate to inexpensive to on up. So I think it's really good. Mike Weber is our contact, and I'm really Mike's done a great job. He's got that product knowledge. So, but we've had some big meetings. We're going to keep adding things to our app. The app has already got over 15 million downloads. Now, first of all, it's free. But I think what I would encourage people to do is just simply download it, which costs you nothing, and then go on the site and take a look at it. If you got a smart device, smartphone, a tablet, smart TV, like I use Apple TV, for example, and you got Wi-Fi, you're in. You get everything you need to make that work. So I really believe it's the way of the future for people that want to enjoy all levels of combat sports and sports entertainment.
All right, so to all my listeners, there's no excuses not to go download the FITE app right now, so you all go do that. Now, another MMA question for you I have is about Ronda Rousey. Without her championship belt now, without her undefeated streak, is Ronda Rousey still an interesting storyline to MMA fans as well as mainstream fans? Or is her popularity going to really suffer long-term from this Holly Holm loss, especially if she can't get a belt back anytime soon?
I think that Ronda's future is very bright still, without question. If for some reason her popularity wanes, then it seems to me it may be because of how she's presented. I don't think the UFC, which has not made a habit of making bad mistakes when they're building their stars, will replicate any kind of undesirable history. She's a major star. I mean, she's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She's been, she gets the mainstream publicity, and she's got another eagerly anticipated movie coming out, the Roadhouse movie that she's going to produce. I think the one loss is a scenario where it just goes to show you that it's the sport of MMA is that no one is untouchable, no one is unbeatable. As long as they're wearing 4-ounce gloves, Matthew, anybody's got a chance. So, and I also think that our society, even though we live in an age of youthful defiance by and large, or defiance in general, that we like to forgive people, or like to give people a second chance. Now, Ronda didn't do anything wrong to be forgiven for, but her fan base, I'm sure, is disappointed, and I'm sure there are some people who didn't like her defiance and her confidence and her attitude, which I love, and I think she's going to be fine, and I think she's still a major player. So I just, it's a bump in the road. We like to forgive, we like to regroup, we like to support those that are trying to come back, and so I think she's going to be just fine. She's still going to make herself and UFC a lot of money, and she's still going to entertain the fans. And look, let's be honest, if the fans don't like her because of her attitude, whatever it may be, they will invest in a pay-per-view involving her, just like the fans did Brock Lesnar when he first got in UFC. They'll invest to see him lose. The greatest antagonists in sports entertainment or in combat sports, the greatest antagonists are big box office sensations because fans will invest money to see them get their ass whipped. And I think that there may be some that ilk, and hopefully Ronda can plug into that and rise to the occasion. So, but I think she's still hugely marketable and will be for quite some time until she decides that she's done.
All right, so something you've talked a lot about on your podcast is how wrestlers need to learn how to sell. And after listening to your show so much, it's really changed a lot personally how I watch matches. I think guys like AJ Styles are some of the best at selling right now, along with guys like Kevin Owens and Ziggler. My question to you is, what should a wrestler do to be effective at selling? And especially, what's the difference between how a face wrestler should sell versus how a heel should sell?
Well, first of all, pro wrestlers have to understand that there are different levels of selling. You don't sell everything, every move that you have been afflicted with the same. If somebody gives you a superplex off the top rope, you're obviously going to sell that differently than you're going to sell a snapmare takeover. So I think it's recognizing that there are varying levels of selling, and that and the other thing is Don't expose the business by forgetting to sell. I've seen guys take a turnbuckle or take a ring post to their shoulder and not even reach their arm, like it hurts. They forget, and that's a very disheartening. It's a lack of concentration, and it's a lack of refinement as far as your in-ring skills are concerned. So I think the main thing guys have to learn about selling is learn to sell based on what happened to you. Learn to sell with your head up, and learn to sell with continuity, so that you're all of a sudden that bad arm that the guy's been working on for the last several minutes has miraculously healed, like you've had a religious experience. It's just a matter of concentration, focus, and it is a major part of a pro wrestling match. If wrestlers aren't selling, or they're wrestling so quickly that it's hard to process what they're doing and keep up with it, then they're making a grave mistake. They're doing more than they need to do. And I think that one of the reasons there's probably more injuries right now than one would ideally like to discuss is because wrestlers work too fast. They take an inordinate amount of hard-to-protect bumps, and so consequently they're asking for more nagging injuries or major injuries. So I think the thing the business needs to do is they're on a different dangerous trend of not selling, doing too much, and then you got to do all these. The wrestlers some wrestlers seem to think that selling is a sign of weakness, and selling is a sign of reality. Because if it's real, you're going to sell. Look at it, the MMA guys sell, boxers sell because it's real. They're selling reality. Well, you're supposed to be able to replicate reality in a pro wrestling match. So by limiting selling and then working too fast, where you're putting your body at risk too often, it's probably not a good investment of their time or their future, quite frankly. So, but selling is a key element, and you don't die when you sell. Baby faces can't die, or they have to keep the audience connected. That I'm trying to turn the corner. I'm trying to get back on the advantage, but I'm not giving up. Villains they can have a metamorphosis and a sorts that when they sell, they're in dire straits and they're in big pain. They're not as tough as they were when they're on the offensive. So you want that great contrast between a villain on the offense and a villain selling. But for a babyface, fan favorite, as long as you never allow your audience to perceive that you are throwing the towel in, that you're not tough, you're going to give up on them. Even if you go down fighting, they'll still respect you and support you. So there's a whole psychological component to selling that a lot of wrestlers, just because of the way they're trained, just haven't mastered. And until they do, they're not going to be as good as they can be.
Yeah, excellent way to put it. Now, last question, Mr. Ross, since I know we got to go home now. I'd love to hear a story from you about either having a rib pulled on you or pulling a rib on a wrestler. Do you have any of those stories you can share with us that won't get you in too much trouble, I should say?
No, we've all had ribs pulled on us. I've had my bag padlocked, my briefcase padlocked to the ceiling in a locker room, and the pipes, the plumbing. Somebody took my briefcase, put it up there, and put a padlock around it, which was Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith were the culprits of that one. I had to get the engineer from the arena to bring bolt cutters and cut my bag off the ceiling. That was one. I had another one where Owen Hart was saw me come down the hall. I've been in a meeting all day with some talent, going over some disciplinary issues. He knew I'd had a tough day, so he comes out of catering with powdered sugar from a donut all over his nose. He was staggering like he was drunk, and he was trying to make me think he'd been doing cocaine. So obviously he didn't know anything about cocaine, because if you do cocaine, you're not going to be acting drunk. You're going to be, sky high, hyper, as a rule, I'm told. He tried to cheer me up in a roundabout way. It was funny. It was funny at the moment, and but he was probably the great river of all time, Owen Hart. Anybody that's been around and can give you chapter and verse about his ribs, and they never ended. He was always looking for the next one. So it wasn't like he would do it, then he would disappear for a few weeks. He was always there always looking for the next one. So it was great. I think that today's guys in the wrestling ribbed less than their predecessors, and they do it. I remember Terry Taylor came there and had he was some guys that came to WWE, and he had a nice suit. And while he was in the ring wrestling, someone took scissors and cut his suit to shreds.
Oh no!
Down, ruined it. So you can go over the top of these ribs. There's ribs that are uncalled for and intolerable, and there are others like the Owen Hart rib with me are funny. So ribs can run their course one way or the other, but they don't seem to be as prevalent nowadays as they used to be. But I think the one that's harmless, I had to get the guy from the building to cut my bag down, and that was everybody got a laugh out of that, and I laughed with them. If you laugh with them, they're less likely to come back and nail you again, as opposed to overselling it and being angry or so concerned about it as it appears to be an issue. You got to protect yourself there for repeat business. So sell it, you laugh, you got me that time, and you move on. So it's just part of the business. I'm sure it's the same way in the NFL or NBA or whatever. It's that's what guys do. They're sophomores. They're perpetual, everlasting sophomores. And sophomores act like sophomores.
All right, well, Mr. Ross, looks like our time is coming to an end, unfortunately, for today. And it's sad because I didn't even get a chance to get you to do a Terry Funk or Stu Hart impersonation, but hopefully that'll be for the next time. So for all you listeners out there, you can listen to Jim Ross and Josh Barnett starting this Friday, March 4th, commentating on New Japan Pro Wrestling on AXS TV at 9 p.m. Eastern. And make sure you download the FITE app. And if you want to hear more from JR, of course, do check out his show on Podcast One. You'll be doing your ears a great disservice by not listening to that. You need to hear it. Listen to all those great interviews. It's like a masterclass in combat sports. Mr. Ross, this has been amazing and a great pleasure, and I thank you very much for being here. I hope we can do it again sometime.
No problem, Matthew. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.